In this part of the video series, we're actually going to show you how to install component speakers into the front door of your Toyota Tacoma. In this particular install, we're going to be using Image Dynamics CTX65 CS's. They've been renamed to the ID65 CS.
So what we're doing first is we're going to remove the stock speaker. You're going to get your 10mm driver. Okay, so after removing the bolts, you have this clip here. There's a small little clip that you have to press down right here. Press that down and then pull out the harness. So when running the wiring, this is your factory harness that you pulled off the speaker. We leave that accessible, that way if you want to return everything to factory to sell the truck or anything like that, all it is removing our harness. So you're going to take our harness, you're going to plug it directly into the factory harness, and this wiring is what you're going to be running through the door. I like to follow the factory wiring, which the factory wiring comes through here, and there's two. Get your couple of tie wraps and tie wrap this out of the way so that when you put the panel on it doesn't get in the way. Where you ran your wiring, you're going to still want to stay following where the factory wiring goes, that way with the window clearance, rolling the window down doesn't tear out the wiring or anything like that. So get one more tie wrap, and I like to tie wrap it to the factory wiring inside the door, and then just make sure that it's not in the window path. The window's right here. I have my wiring buttoned up over here. Okay, now that we have the wiring run through and tied up, what we like to do is we like to leave maybe about 6 to 8 inches of slack. The speakers that we're going to be using are the ID65 CS. Here's one of the speakers. When attaching the speaker to the speaker mount, what you want to do is you want to pre-drill pilot holes. We've already mounted this speaker, but we left one open. We get a small drill bit, drill in all 4 pilot holes. When doing that, you want to make sure that the terminals on the speaker are going to be down, so that when you mount it and you have the wire come up, you're positive the window is not going to pull on these wires and risk pulling them off of the speaker. Quick note, when you're drilling the pilot holes, you don't want to take the pilot hole all the way through. You only want to go in maybe about 1/4 of an inch at the most. All you're doing is giving yourself room to start that screw so that you don't have risk of it slipping and popping the speaker. Get your terminal connectors, strip back some of the wiring, say maybe about another 1/4 inch. I have the wires stripped, but what I'm going to do first is I'm going to test that the connectors are the right fit. We send different size connectors just in case you need a different size connector. But if you look at the speaker, you have, I don't know if you can see it, but you have your positive and you have your negative. Your positive is always the bigger connector. So I'm going to get one of the connectors that we send. I'm not going to put it in all the way. I'm just going to make sure it fits, and sure enough, that one does. The smaller connector, make sure it fits on the negative, and we're good. So now, just make sure you put the bigger connector on the red, which is your positive. Always give them a quick little test pull. Get your speaker. You're going to connect your positive. The speaker mount that we're using on this Tacoma is the heavy duty kit. Is the heavy duty speaker mount. So if you're getting the heavy duty speaker mount, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to order our longer bolt kit, because the stock bolts won't reach the clip in here. So with our longer bolt kit, you'll have it. If you're getting the budget mounts, it's narrow enough to where you can use your factory speakers for that. I mean your factory bolts for that. Get your 10mm socket. Careful not to over tighten it, because you will strip out that plastic anchor. The mid-bass driver's done. We're going to go ahead and move on over to installing the tweeter, and then we'll go ahead and show you how to do the crossover.
Alright guys, so in this video I want to explain to you guys component speakers. There seems to be a lot of confusion on this from a lot of our customers, so I'm hoping this clarifies it for you, makes it really simple. A lot of people are used to this type of speaker. This is called a coax. You have one speaker, you have the speaker, you have two drivers, and they call it a coax because the mid-range and the tweeter share the same axis, hence a coaxial speaker. On the back, we've got one connection. Most people are used to this type of connection. You plug in speaker wire, you're done. Alright, on a component set, it's a little bit more work, but you get a lot more benefits. Here, we've got a crossover. What the crossover's job is, it takes the incoming signal, and it filters it, and it only sends the proper signal here and the proper signal here. A really big benefit is you get to mount a tweeter up in a higher location, and you get better sound quality, better imaging, because your leg isn't blocking it, your knee, whatever, because you can actually put this in a higher place, and it makes a huge difference in sound quality. Now, here's where a lot of people get confused. How do I wire this thing up? Well, it's actually really easy. Here we have the signal coming from your amp or your stock head unit. Okay, so this is going in, and it even says in, so we know this is coming from the amp or head unit. The next thing is we need to feed the signal out to these two drivers. So here under W, that's for a mid-range woofer or a mid-range driver. So the woofer is getting this signal here. Just hook the positive and negative up. Same thing, now this one is going to feed the signal out to the tweeter, and that's it. You've basically set up a passive crossover system. So let's jump over to the vehicle and get it installed. All right, for the sake of the video, we've taken and we've labeled this tweeter wire harness adapter. Pin number 1, pin number 2, pin number 3, and pin number 4. And on the corresponding wires, I think you'll be able to see this, we labeled them accordingly. So we're matching the wire number here. Like this one is number 2, and it matches over here to pin number 2. The reason we do that is when we feed it down into the below the dash, we're not going to be able to tell which wire is which. So next step is we take this. I think let me move my hand out of the way. Golly, can I see that? Yeah. All you're going to do is plug this in where your factory tweeter once was. Plug that in, and hear it click. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to simply take this.
In this step, we're going to install the tweeter. What we provided in the kit is 3 feet of 18 gauge wire. We provided 2 splice connectors. Strip your wires back. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to run this speaker wire down with the rest of the wiring you have that ties into that connector. Now that we have all the wiring down that's going to get connected to the crossover, I'm going to go ahead and bolt down the tweeter. So now with mounting the tweeter mount, you're going to want to make sure that the part with the notch goes towards the windshield so that you can fit the cover back on it. With our mounts, you can go ahead and use the factory screws. You're going to get your cover, slide the back in first, pop the front in, and that's it. With our speaker in, our tweeter in, we have our wiring coming down. Where we like to put our crossovers, we like to put them in the kick panel that's right here on the corner. So you're going to need to remove that, and then you're going to need to remove this side panel as well. So first you need to remove is you reach your fingers from the inside and pop it up. And then you're going to do the same thing with the front. Reach inside and pop it up. To remove the kick panel, we went ahead and moved the camera. There's a little screw back here. It's just a hand screw. You can remove it with your fingers. Get your fingers in this corner and pull outward, and the kick panel comes right out. What I like to do then is I like to put this screw back because you will lose it. So we're going to connect the crossover now. And with this, what you're going to do is you're going to look at the labels on the wiring. 2 and 4 are going to be your in. Here's your 2 and 4. Your 2 is your positive, your 4 is your negative. And there's your in on the crossover. I'm going to grab 1 and 3. Your 1 is your positive. This is going to go in the woofer. There's your 1 and 3. And then you're going to get your tweeter wire, crossover, 2, 4, 1, 3, and tweeter. Okay, where we're going to put the crossover is up here where all the wiring is, the cluster of wires. There's this little area right here. It's almost like a perfect cup for this crossover. Get your crossover, put it in there. Make sure you don't force it down because you don't want to disconnect any wiring, but that thing is secure right there. And then we'll get a couple of tie wraps. We'll tie wrap these out of the way, and there's your crossover.
Alright guys, so now Mike has got the crossover installed, got the speakers installed. We're going to move to the back doors. We'll show you that in a minute. But before we do, make sure to check out the Easy Amp that plugs directly into your stock wiring, plugs directly into the back of your head unit. No cutting or splicing necessary. It'll take your stock speakers, which are getting about 15, maybe 18 watts max. It's going to boost the front doors to about 70 watts. It'll boost the rear doors to about 50 watts. Huge difference. I mean, you'll have a huge significant difference in your overall sound quality. Also, be sure to check out our packaged systems for your Tacoma. We have totally pre-packaged systems at really nice discounted prices. All right, appreciate you guys checking us out. Let's go ahead and move to the rear doors, and that'll be in another video on how to install the rear doors.